Yo, so I just saw Detective Pikachu and I figured I'd do like a quick little video kind of spilling my thoughts out on it. This is going to be completely unscripted. I'm not going to like put too much time into this because I'm working on something else right now and I'd rather put it into that. So this is all coming straight from the heart. It's more so coming straight from the fart. It's coming out my ass, but either way. I saw the movie and I figured I'd talk about what I thought of it. I already talked a little bit about what I thought of it on Twitter, but I know only like a small fraction of my audience follows me on Twitter, so I figured doing a YouTube thing might be a better way of like letting people know whether or not it's worth seeing, I guess, because I know there's been a lot of debate over whether or not this is a good movie, like, because when it wasn't out yet, the Rotten Tomatoes score came out and it was a 70%, and everybody was like freaking out, like, oh, this is the first good video game movie. Then there's people being like, actually, the Animal Crossing movie was good, the Professor Layton movie was good. Just to clarify, when people say video game movie, they usually mean they're saying it's the first good live action Hollywood video game to film adaptation. And honestly, after seeing it, I'd say, yeah, it probably is the first good one. A lot of people would argue Mortal Kombat, but I've never seen that movie, so I don't know anything about it. So yeah, as somebody that is big into video games and also big into movies, I think what I thought about it, I don't want to sound like narcissistic here, but what I thought about it might mean a little bit more to some people than, you know, what these faceless critics who contributed to a percentage are. Because in the end, I think that percentage is a little bit superficial. I mean, it's just a number that represents how many critics liked the movie. It's not like the objective meter on how much you're gonna like it, right? So yeah, I decided to go see it. And I'm not gonna pretend I'm like the biggest Pokemon fan. I'm not really that big into Pokemon anymore. I was as a little kid, like I had the toys, I watched the show. I never really played many of the main series games. I think I only played through Yellow and Silver way back. But other than that, I've only really played a lot of spin-offs. Like, I remember enjoying Hey You Pikachu as a kid. I don't know why. That game's bad, but I liked it when I was young. I'll still die on the hill that Pokemon Puzzle League is the best Pokemon game. Fight me if you want. I don't care. I also really liked Pokemon Mystery Dungeon in middle school. That's probably like the newest one I played. But yeah, I more so wanted to see this movie as like a piece of pop culture, because as somebody that really loves video games and really cares about movies, it was really interesting to me, the idea of seeing what might be the first decent video game movie, blah blah blah. Let's get into it. So right out of the gate, I thought it was okay. It was pretty good. I don't think it was like fantastic. It wasn't like great, but it was competent. And I think that sentiment kind of holds a lot more, you know, weight considering what this was. Like, if it was just any random, completely original movie from Hollywood and I came out of it thinking, that was okay, B-, I probably would never think about it again. But the fact that this is like a video game movie and I come out of it being like, yeah, B-, I'd probably say B- or C+. I think that has a lot more weight to it. Because we're in a world where we have zero faith in these things being good, and the fact that like you can go into this and see what you want and enjoy it, I think that's a very valuable and important thing. So let's kind of get into what I did like about it, what I didn't like about it. You know, and I'm not gonna do any spoilers. No spoilers in this at all. I'm just kind of gonna, you know, generally go through some things that I cared for, some things I think that could have been done a lot better, especially since I know they're doing a sequel, and you know, a sequel, hopefully it'll be better. Hopefully they kind of tackle some of these things I didn't care for. So yeah, firstly, the movie starts with a guy trying to catch a Pokemon. And I think that was a really good way of establishing like what this world is. You know, even if you are familiar with the world of Pokemon, seeing how these rules work in live action, I think was really good. And I thought the scene was like, it was funny, you know, it was a good job of kind of establishing what the character is like, how he feels about this world, how he feels about the things he's doing. And then he gets on the train, then there's just a video screen that's just like, this is the world of Pokemon. And that part might feel a little bit redundant to people that do know about it, but I think it did do a good job of establishing this world. And that just brings me to a point where I'm like, I keep seeing these critics being like, if you don't know anything about Pokemon, you're not going to understand this movie. That's a crock of shit. I think that intro did a decent job of kind of bringing people who aren't familiar with it up to speed. One thing I know a lot of people were concerned about was the CG, especially myself. Like, I think Pikachu looks fantastic. His model is great. He looks like he belongs there, and he blends to the world really well. But the thing is, like, Pokemon are a cartoon that was never meant to be realistic, and the second you make them into realistic looking things, they start to look a little weird. So and it's kind of interesting because when you look at that trailer, when you see those models in a vacuum without like the context of a feature-length film, you're probably going to be like, I don't like it. And I'm seeing a lot of people being like, I don't like it, like the way Charizard looks weird, Greninja looks weird. But when you sit down and you're watching a full-length movie that has that throughout the whole thing, your brain kind of just accepts it after 10 minutes. Like, you're always going to know they're CG characters. Your brain's not going to get fooled. You're not going to believe that those are real things. But you're like, this is a movie. Those are movie characters. So it's fine. What's most important, and I think they did nail this, was the interactions between the real people and the CG characters. And while they didn't look like real life, like animals, the way they interacted, it felt like they were really there, and I think that's what really matters. Like when the guy picks up Pikachu and he's on his shoulder, like it feels like Pikachu has weight to it, you know? It doesn't just feel like, oh, I have like the green screen thing on a stick on my shoulder. No, they did a good job of like making it believable that these things were interacting with these characters. Now, something I didn't really like about the movie was I thought the acting was really hit and miss. Sometimes it was good. Other times it was like really bad, I thought, especially the writing, like paired with it. I thought some of the writing was kind of weak. There's this scene when you first meet like the female lead and she's coming down the stairs and she's doing like this long spiel about like I'm this person and I do this and that, and, you know, I'm real cool because of that. I was waiting for a freaking punchline. Like I was waiting for Justice Smith to be like, seriously, are you 10? But that line just didn't come, and I was like, oh, that's actually just the line and we're supposed to take that seriously. And people could argue, well, it's a kid's movie. I've watched lots of kids movies. I've seen almost every Pixar movie. I've never felt that way in any of those movies, so that's a pretty flat argument. The acting was good sometimes, though. I feel like Justice Smith, I feel, was also hit and miss. I think anytime he's pushing an emotion, he does a good job. Like when he's sad or excited or angry or confused or conflicted, I feel like he does a good job, but it's like the middle ranges between those extremes I think he needs to work on. When he's just kind of like neutral, he came off to me like as a little deadpan, and it felt like, yeah, I'm just saying lines here. And, you know, those like awkward romance flirty moments I also thought were a little deadpan and could have been, because it wasn't an extreme emotion, which is what I think he did really well. I don't want to like rag on him too much, or the female actress as well. I forget her name. Because I looked them up and it seems like neither of them have been in a whole lot of movies yet, so they're both kind of fresh faces. But I hope that they get a little better at those kind of like middle ground, neutral-ish kind of emotions. And some scenes I think is a combination of everything. Like one scene really sticks out to me where I think like the editing and performance and writing all could have been better. It's the inciting moment where he gets the phone call and learns of a distressing thing, and he just turns to his friend and kind of deadpan says the thing that happened. He's like, oh no, and it just felt like, it didn't really strike me that he cared enough about what just happened. If I did that scene, I would have had him just not say anything, just stare deadpan, like complete silence after hearing what came on the phone, and then transition. I don't think you needed any dialogue after that. Compare this to another adaptation, one of my favorite movies, The Departed, which is a remake of a Chinese film. The scene where Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon are on the phone with each other for the first time, and they don't say anything, and it's a really tense moment. In the original version, there was a music track playing. Martin Scorsese opted for just absolute silence, and it made the film so much more tense in that moment. So sometimes less is more. Now, on the plus side of acting, Ryan Reynolds is brilliant in this movie. He carries the whole film, I would argue. Everything that comes out of Pikachu's mouth is either well-timed, or kind of funny, or it's hilarious, or it's just well delivered. Ryan Reynolds is a fantastic actor, and I feel like everything that came out of his mouth, Pikachu, I mean, didn't really feel on par with the writing of the whole movie. I thought the writing of the whole movie was kind of like average, but some of the things coming out of Ryan Reynolds' mouth was just like really good. So it kind of makes me feel like there's a little bit of improv, and I'm really glad if that's the case, because that means Ryan Reynolds had a little bit of creative freedom with this, and that was definitely a good decision because it really helped the film get through some of those clunky scenes. Because the scenes were like, she's coming down the stairs, she's saying all that dumb stuff, Pikachu's not there, and I don't think he was, at least, and it's just like, I'm just waiting for the scene to end. But any of those like kind of awkward flirty scenes that I felt kind of fell flat, Ryan Reynolds was there to kind of like remind you that you're here for Pikachu and that there's still something worth watching on screen, at least in this scene. There's a couple of twists in this movie that I'm obviously not going to spoil, but I want to say, like, the big one, I saw coming, like, a mile away. Am I the only one that, like, I felt that was, like, there's a part when it's like, oh, that's a thing? Okay, well, obviously I know this is going to happen now. Oh, excuse me. But the thing is, like, the actual ending, there's this one, like, unveiling of a certain thing. Like, there's a shot where, like, it's really low to the ground, you hear a line, and then it, like, pans around, and you see, like, this thing. I thought that was, like, really well done, even if I saw it coming, and I thought the ending was, like, really, really good. And that's another thing that I strongly felt about this movie. I felt like it was rocky in the beginning, but I felt like it gets, like, better and better and better as it goes on. When you start seeing, like, the action scenes, I feel like the interactions, when they're past, like, those, oh, the characters are awkward and learning to know each other. I feel like when the characters just know each other and they feel more comfortable talking to each other, I felt like that's when, like, the lines got a little better. There was this one dude that Brady and I were, like, cracking up at. He felt like a cartoon character, which I guess, like, that is fitting because it's like Pokemon. I know, like, some of the trainers you fight in Pokemon games are really wacky characters. It's like this dude doesn't have a shirt on. He's just got like this open button shirt, and he's got like this Charizard. It's like a Pokemon battle, and he's just making like weird sounds and stuff. And I can't tell how silly that was meant to be. I feel like I was laughing at it rather than with it. But even still, it was, like, really dorky and enjoyable. So that's one thing, like, I would argue was, like, really, really good about it. The humor was surprisingly, like, on point. Not just because of Ryan Reynolds, but there's, like, a couple of, like, written jokes that had, like, a setup and a punchline that were just, like, really funny. The whole scene with Mr. Mime was really great, but, like, the one that just had me in stitches was, like, Justice Smith, like, got some gas on him or something, and then like, he finds out he can understand Pikachu, and he thinks that's the reason. So he's out in public being like, no one can understand him? Something went up my nose, and now I can hear this guy talk, and everyone's just like... I thought that was really funny. As for the plot, it felt really safe. It kind of like, yeah, we have a pretty basic plot. You're going to go to this location, learn this piece of information, go to the next location. If you've ever played L.A. Noire... am I saying noir? People say I say noir wrong. Noir. L.A. Noire. I don't know if I'm saying that right or not. I say a lot of words wrong. Oops. I'm just a big dumb idiot. But anyway, if you've ever played L.A. Noire, it felt like one episode of that, or like one mission in that, where it's like, you go to this place, you find this evidence, you go to this guy, then you interview this guy. It felt like a really standard, formulaic detective movie. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because it's like, we want this movie to be good, so we're just gonna play it safe for now, is kind of what it struck me as. So, honestly, that might have been a good decision in the end, because if they try something a little more ambitious with, like, a property that's not theirs, and they're like, we want to kind of respect this, it might have kind of fallen apart. So it is pretty standard, and you might find it a tad bland because of that, but I do appreciate trying to be safe with it. That said, like, it really did feel like this was a product of love rather than a product of a corporation being like, I'm going to make some money because I got my hands on Pokemon. I mean, like, you saw the Sonic trailer. This felt the complete opposite. This felt like it felt like it was being produced by people that are familiar with Pokemon, that value Pokemon, and wanted to do it justice. And you can really tell by, like, how faithful it was to the universe. And I think I've touched on this a little bit before, but it really seemed to respect the rules of the universe. It really seemed to respect what these characters were. It didn't pretend they were anything they weren't. It just made a story around them that was original. And I think that, again, I think that was the best way of tackling this. Taking something that we already know about and doing something original with it without straying too far from it. So yeah, I'd say in conclusion, if you don't really care about Pokemon, it's probably not really worth seeing, but if you do like Pokemon, you can go in knowing that it is going to be something you will enjoy, something that's competently made, well-produced. It really was well-produced. Like, the CG, while none of the characters really looked like they really belonged in real life, they at least felt like they were really there interacting with the characters, but also, like, just some of the shots in this movie were really nice looking. The cinematography was, like, pretty dang good, and the colors... Oh, the colors, like, a lot of it's shot at night, and it's kind of like that neo-noir kind of look. If anybody remembers Nightcrawler, kind of similar look to that movie, where they have, like, a little more color with it. Like, it's not just the standard, like, teal and orange kind of neo-noir colors. It's like, you get, like, a lot of, like, greens and purples and and reds and just lots of beautiful colors for like those rainy scenes where like it's reflecting off the pavement. And since they are doing a sequel, I think I read about like they are already in talks doing a sequel. If I had some things that I'd like to see from that, just stronger writing and stronger acting. That's really all. And maybe like slightly more ambitious plot, because they did a safe one. They kind of know that they can do it and be faithful and do it kind of well. So I'd say like, yeah, just try something a little wackier, a little crazier, a little bit more out there, and just strengthen those other little parts that were, I thought were a little weak. And hopefully get Ryan Reynolds back, because he was fantastic in the whole thing. And again, give him the creative freedom that it seemed like he had with doing some of those lines. When Brady and I were coming out of theater, I don't know if like theaters in the US are like this, but Cineplex is the chain where I live in Canada. And there's always like arcades there, and you can play games. It's the kind of arcades where you earn tickets. And I found out I was really good at the piano game, so I got 1,000 tickets easy. And I like posted to Twitter, which Pokemon should I get? And I was getting like a lot of like smart ass replies, being like, get Thor or Spider-Man, because there's some Marvel characters in the picture too. So like I was a smart ass back, and I said, just to let you know, the Pokemon are the little animal guys. But I ended up getting Pichu, and I tweeted about it, and I was like, hey, I got Pikachu. Obviously, bad joke, just to make people angry. People didn't seem to get angry though. People kind of knew I was just like funning with them. But yeah, I got this guy. I don't know what my point here was. I feel like I was gonna lead into a point about the movie, like regarding like pop culture and how it makes me buy the things. I liked it enough to come out wanting a Pokemon, even though I don't care that much about it. I guess I can say that much. Yeah, if you like Pokemon, go see it. It's definitely worth seeing. Again, it's not going to be like a Oscar-worthy good movie. It's not a fantastic film, but it's decent. It's like a B-, and that's enough for like what this is. So yeah, go see it.